Hello there. In this tutorial we'll see how 3D beams work in Plexus for After Effects. Let me create a new comp. Let me create a new solid. Go to Effect, Plexus. Let me create a new paths object. You can create any object, but that's easy to create. And let me draw a straight mask. And as you can see, there are a lot of points out here. Let me set the points to really low, probably like 20, maybe even less, like 8. Great. Let me add a new camera here, and let me replicate it in 3D space to like 8 more copies. And now I have a grid of points here. Let me add the beams object. Now, as you can see, it creates beams along the z-axis here, and you could increase the starting thickness if you want. Let me turn off the points renderer and set the opacity all the way to 100, so you get this opaque object here. So you could create, you can have a edge tapering effect, like where the end thickness is almost 0 or start thickness is almost 0. So this is how beam works, and the basic idea is just like After Effects beam effect. And you could have a range start and a range end. For example, you can animate the range end all the way and kind of creates this beam effect. You can also have a range start, and you can have this offset. Let me put this back to equal sizes so they look normal. Okay, and you could offset the range, so create this cool effect, kind of like the text animation in After Effects, where you can have a certain range and animate various properties. So this is how beams under works in the object level. Now we can also have beams in between groups. To do that, let me delete the beams under here. Let me put back the thing, and let me create a new light. Make sure it's point light. Click OK, and let me add a new light layers object. And it defaultly gets that light here. So let me set it to position here. Oops. And let me increase the Y distance. Which, I'm not sure if you could see. Let me increase the point for other side a little bit more. Okay, and now you have 2 different objects here, and let me set the layers object to group 1 like it is, and the path objects to group 2. And let me add a beams render object here, and let me change the beam type from objects to groups. Now, as you can see, it created beams between these 2 groups, which is group 1 to group 2. Like before, you could, animate the range, so kind of go after one after another. Increase the thickness a little more, so it's more visible. So you could animate the ranges like before, and you can also have a range which you could offset. Create this like really fast effect here. Let me put it back to 0, 0, and 100. And you can also randomize the ranges. So, for example, like when you offset when you animate the ranges here, it goes in random different ways, not in sequential order. Let me turn it off. And you can also have Bezier lines, for example. It's like Bezier. you could see there's this cool Bezier beams selected that go from this to, could also have in all different directions. And for example, let me animate the time so they all look like, actually let me decrease the points here, number of copies to 4 and number of points to 4, so you could have a much better look. You animate the time, they kind of go from group A to group B, and you could have the axis of Bezier from y-axis or x-axis or z-axis. Usually y works the best, and you can have the curve, you can have a curve really more or just curve enough, and you can have all these cool curve options. This actually looks really cool. So this is how the beams object works. You could have a lot more control here, which it's really fun to play around with, and hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks for watching. Thank you.